Rakdos has returned to the Tainted Grail. Yet again, we are going to flex our power with the Necromancer here. I decide to throw in the last little bit of the third area here. I decided, why not? We are already incredibly powerful. We know the fights are going to go quickly, and let's enjoy it a little bit. I know we're at 33 life, but we had to pay a lot of life to actually remove 5 cards from our deck there. So another thing that I forgot to mention, I'm glad I get to demonstrate here, the attacks that you get from sacrificing minions and killing enemies heal you. They actually have lifesteal for 50% of the damage. And as you can just see there, by sacrificing 2 of my minions, I went from 33 HP to, 85? A huge heal on top of all of the other amazing benefits that attacking like that gives you. I'd never had to heal with it before, so it wasn't really relevant, but just keep that in mind. And now that we fully understand how our deck works and our build works, and we removed 5 cards, we're even more consistent. Our deck should be able to pull off the same thing every time with slight variables. In this episode, we are going to be fighting the secret final boss. I'm trying to buy any consumable I can find that might help me reduce armor, increase my damage, do extra hits, anything like that, just to get as high of a score as we possibly can here. And as you can see, the triple abomination, triple sacrifice opening is happening every single fight. And we're able to consistently duplicate unstoppable strength, giving us so many free attacks. We didn't get Deadly Lust, otherwise we'd be doing a whole lot of more damage already. But with that first sacrifice and the first draw, we still don't draw Deadly Lust. Well, we have infinite more damage, so there's no way we don't kill turn 1 here. Oh, there's Deadly Lust. Trying to time it so that I can duplicate it. And those numbers look appropriate. We already have the victory here, but we lich for good measure. A perfect example of my overkill complex that I have. But hey, I think it builds muscle memory. That's the excuse that I will use. It builds muscle memory so that every fight, I know what my combo is. I know how to squeeze out maximum damage. As you could see, at the beginning of the run, I did not know how to squeeze out maximum damage. I had the tools, but I was not playing them in the correct order. For several fights, I was ignoring the duplication of Deadly Lust. I could have been much more powerful. And that, I feel, will be the case a lot of times in this game and with these classes. There will be a skill cap, and it won't always be obvious what the correct play will be to get maximum damage. It'll take several playthroughs of a specific class, I think, to learn their quirks and figure out what combos are strongest. Admittedly, I have spam played the Necromancer ever since I finished beating the game with all classes. After I beat it with each class once, I started playing the Necromancer and did not stop until I achieved this run. I think it was the second Necromancer game I ever played where I acquired Deadly Lust and started duplicating it. And as you can see here, I managed to use the Blacksmith to great effect to create the Year Rune, the level 2 Year Rune. I gamble, and keep re-rolling my legendary runes until I get 3 Year Runes. Now I duplicate the third card played every turn. The difference between duplicating the third and the fourth is absolutely massive. Because this specific rune does not stop at one activation and will continuously activate every time you hit its trigger number, you will now duplicate far more cards per turn than before with this year level 2. We are just deciding what the last rune should be for this final secret boss. We have a lot of options, and that's a huge bonus that I would give to this game. Is if you like having options in your strategy games and really being able to customize how you approach fights, I feel you will very much enjoy Tainted Grail. Sorry, just took the sip of the coffee there. Making some really hard choices. Yep, I'm putting all damage runes in my weapon slot. Typically, I like runes in the weapon slot that let me draw more cards on turn 1, the polished calcs. But this fight's going to go a while, so I want sustained power. My turn 1 doesn't need to be nearly as explosive. I need to have more power over a long period of time now, and so that's what I'm gearing for. I think I finally have it figured out. Maybe. I can already tell that I've made an incorrect choice. I think I choose a weapon rune that boosts my damage after I kill enemies. Yes, after killing an enemy, gain 100% damage. I have only fought this fight once before. The very run before this, on a Necromancer. And I scored on the scoreboard, but it was like 150 or something. It was still, you know, pretty cool, but I knew I could do better. So I took these runes assuming that I knew how the fight worked. But it turns out I didn't. I choose not to take that. And I think I even spend the money on a passive here because I'm trying for max damage. No. I'm like, no, 1,400 is not worth it, even for, especially with how bad that passive was. That was going to add a card to our Lich's deck. And the reason we don't want to do that is because we need the Lich's deck to contain Duplicate, Power Steal, Eerie Gaze. We need these cards every time we turn into the Lich. Every card we add to the Lich deck kind of dilutes it, and we could end up turning into the Lich and drawing cards that are not particularly useful. Stocking up on everything, absolutely everything, no reason not to. Debating on spending my Weird Stone here, but I'm like, no, I'll save up. We always end every run with 7 or 8 potions anyway, so I think increasing the potency of the potions is a lot more valuable than increasing the maximum number of potions that you can purchase. And here, I want to keep on the potions. I also want to keep the flute, just in case I have a panic turn that I can't block. And then the other 2 items, I think I choose bad items here. I had a specific plan for the throwing knives. We'll see how it works out. And the final boss fight, the secret final boss fight. We're finally here. Let's see how our deck fares against this challenge. You can clearly see the damage dealt counter up in the top. This is your indicator of how high you have scored. It's a 15-turn fight where you deal as much damage and try to survive. Now, if you're watching this, you already are submitting yourself to spoilers for this fight. So I'm going to tell you everything I know about this fight. And in the comments down below, tell me what I got wrong, what the mechanics actually are, or if I was dead on. So when you hover over him, he states that the boss has 2 phases or modes. Kind of an attack mode, which he's in now, and a summoning mode, where he buffs, debuffs, and summons. When he spends time in either mode, he will increase his power. The longer he stays in the battle mode that he's in now, more damage he deals, and the more deadly his attacks become. The longer he stays in his support form, the more debuffed I become, the more buffed he becomes, and the more buffed his allies become. Now, the only question here is, how does he switch forms? Well, in the first encounter with this boss, around turn 2 or 3, I noticed a card in my hand. It was a 2 energy card that made him switch forms. So you have to spend your resources to kind of slow his roll and make him switch forms and prepare yourself to handle the other side of what he can do. And reset his multiplicative stacking buff. This seemed to make sense. Now, I'm not sure what I did wrong here, but I have some hunches. But I can already tell you, I do not get that card in this run, in this fight, at all. It never lets me switch his form. When I ran into this fight the first time, I assumed switching his form was mandatory, because once he got to around turn 10, turn 9 on his counter, his attacks were getting very scary. So I was like, okay, clearly you're not meant to block this forever. Eventually he scales to a point where you need to switch his form so that he doesn't just keep getting more powerful. Well, what happens if you can't switch his form? We get the pleasure of finding out here. Now, I take the first couple turns very slowly, and I'm very methodical about my damage. I know you can see the length of the video, so we go very slow and try to make sure that we're getting the most out of our damage. Specifically, we're counting our spells. This is the thing that kind of slows the game down the most, I would say. Every time you have a year rune, you're counting 1, 2, 3, duplicate. Or 1, 2, duplicate, 3, 4, duplicate, 5, 6, duplicate, which is what I'm doing right now. So it does take quite a bit more calculation when you're going through your turns. But yes, I do not get the card that allows me to switch him to his support form. So he stays in his battle mode this entire fight. And we panic. And we get very scared at his incredible damage numbers. But you'll see how we get around it. I'm not going to spoil it just yet. We got quite a ways to go. Don't want to give everything away. Just sit back and watch me activate my abominations, start stacking the damage, try to consistently hit my Lich form, and remember, the keystone that we took will make our Lich form increase the damage of our future Lich forms over and over and over again. and I realize I need to kill one more minion to make sure that I can go into the Lich form. And this passive damage that I'm doing from killing my minions will add up on this damage dealt. Now, with a long fight like this, we don't get Deadly Lust every rotation of our cards. So that huge burst damage is kind of done and gone. Now we need to see how well we can sustain with things like Duplicate Power Steal, Armor Reduction, Tongue of Fire, and things like the Funeral Fog. In this fight, I also learned something incredibly useful. There is a limit to how much negative armor something can have. Very early on, I learned that the maximum armor that anything could have was 75. But I had taken enemy armor down to negative 200, assuming that there was no cap. Well, this guy here gets his armor shredded to pieces to make sure our damage is as high as possible. And a lot of our armor shred is permanent. And it's a little hard for me to see here if he's at max or not, but I will just tell you now that negative 500 seems to be as low as you can go as far as armor. But behold, how many times is that? 8 activations in a row on our abomination there. Already up to 10,000 damage. And that's 10,000 area of effect damage that we will have dealt at this point. And with the Lich transformation only being 2 sacrifices instead of 3, giving us double charges, it becomes trivial to turn into the Lich every single turn and receive that incremental damage buff every single turn. Switch to the Lich. The reason we are contemplating so hard here is because even though our Lich form combo is pretty clear, we still have a duplicate every 3 cards we play. And that carries over into the Lich form. So sometimes it's not smart to play the duplicate card when it is the card that will be duplicated. And sometimes it is exactly what you want to do, and duplicating the duplicate card is incredibly strong. So the counting 1, 2 duplicate, 3, 4 duplicate gymnastics does not stop once you switch into the Lich form. You're still doing it. So the combo is clear, but it takes a little bit more effort. Remembering to activate the abomination that has already activated the most to make sure I'm getting the highest damage numbers I can. This is something that we do specifically for the scoreboard. We are doing that to make sure we get as much score as possible. The imp has served his purpose, and our 5th card played each turn is getting reduced by 1. That is the benefit of one of the runes we swapped in. Something we were going to use earlier, but now it's going to serve us very well. For 15 turns, we get 1 free energy on the 5th card we play each turn. So that is very, very impactful. Unlike other games with energy management and cards like this, I've found that Tainted Grail is very reserved on giving you additional energy. In fact, I would say the Necromancer is one of the classes that has the most access to it. See, I power steal here without playing duplicate because I already had the duplicate from my rune available. So we get to duplicate power steal on its own and then have the option to duplicate something else. Now we're looking at the turn counter here. I think that says 12 left, and we're seeing the damage, and we're just, how are we going to survive? Why am I not getting the card that lets me transition? I'm wondering this to myself. I see Funeral Fog. It doesn't fully click yet. It doesn't fully click yet. I know I'm looking at it, but I know at this point in the video and at this point in the run, did I really just cast Funeral Fog? For what reason will I have... I think I just cast it as filler, and there might have been nothing better, but there definitely was something better. And it's funny that I see myself cast it there. As you can see, we had 940% increased damage at the end of that turn. But I just fail to remember how good that card is because I rarely use it. But it's an incredible defensive card. It's so good. And it ends up being the only thing that gets us out of this run, I think. Did I just look at my deck? I think I did. So this is when I'm realizing that I can't switch his form, because I look at his damage and I'm like, oh my gosh, this dude's coming through. Like, what am I gonna do? He's starting to hit me pretty hard, and I can't switch his form. Why can't I switch his form? Theory number one, my primary theory for why I can't switch his form in this fight. I believe that the card that allows you to switch his form is placed into your deck. And I think that that can't happen unless your deck is at a certain point in its draw cycle. Maybe it gets put into your deck after you've drawn through your whole deck once. So it's not in your opening deck, but it's in your second cycle through. Something like that. I think in my first encounter with this boss, as the Necromancer, I did not turn into the Lich every single turn. I think I held my charges for a couple turns and did not transform into the Necromancer, into the Lich, sorry. Just trying to survive. And so I had time for my deck to cycle through completely. I think here, because I'm constantly turning into the Lich, that I'm not getting that transform card. So I think in this turn, I make the conscious decision to not go Lich mode and just end my turn. And I feel bad about it, but I'm like, I have to do this and just take this damage because I need to draw that card. Now you see I have one card left in my deck, so I'm hoping that by doing this, I will draw the switch card, because in his support phase, I can handle it the entire time. I can leave him in his support phase for the rest of the fight. So I'm really looking to get that card and switch him. My draw comes, my deck resets. It does not happen. I don't draw the card that allows me to switch his form. So at this point, I took the damage. My HP's low. I'm looking into my draw pile. It's not there. I'm looking at everything. Why is the switch card not happening? I look at his passive, read it carefully. It does not tell you what triggers his transformation. I know that it's a card. It's not in my deck. Why is it not in my deck? Why can I not switch his form? So I have no choice but to battle him, with him getting stronger and stronger this entire time, and tank every hit. Not something that a turn 1 burst damage deck has really built to do, right? Well, we managed to get out of it, as you may have guessed. And if you carefully read that Funeral Fog card that we played earlier, you might even know how we get out of it. But if you want to see it happen before your very eyes, stick around. I abandoned the plan of not turning into the Lich. I am like, I can't not turn into the Lich for 2 turns in a row. That's just unreasonable. But as you can see, my life has increased. I wasn't fully paying attention. I don't know if I used a potion. I easily could have. But I actually think that that healing came from the damage that occurred from my Necromancer when I sacrificed my minions. Free damage and free healing. And area of effect. If I haven't talked up that keystone enough, just know it's really good. Thinking to myself, do I really not turn into the Lich? Am I sticking with this plan? And I'm being very stingy with playing that Sage card because it will only protect me temporarily. With me switching into the Lich so often, my barrier won't stick around between switching between forms. And I have so many self-sacrifice cards in my hand, I decide to just kill the worm and start over a new abomination. I decide not to burst there and just kill him with my transition into the Lich form. I think he already has max armor reduction, and I don't draw Power Steel. As you can see, it can happen. It can happen. So adding cards to the Lich's deck is very dangerous. They need to be very good. They need to synergize with what you're doing. So now I just get to blast him for a lot of damage. I mean, it's really good damage, don't get me wrong, but probably not as much as I would have got from a duplicate Power Steel. 41,000, doing pretty good. And as you can see, now he's really upset at me. He's really mad, and the damage is just crazy. He's trying to kill me. I should have never let him get this strong. And what can I do? I can't have minions tank his attacks. I look at the golem thinking maybe the golem can take a couple hits, but not even really. The golem can maybe take 1, maybe 2, but then the rest hit me. Operation damage. We just keep hitting him, I decide. Magic Wind was such a clutch pick. So strong. Then being able to duplicate something like Unstoppable Strength. That's a fresh abomination that just came in. And look how strong his attack is already. And look how much punishment he's dished out already. And so we're like, okay, you want to hit us? Well, I've got something for you. I'm going to quadruple abomination. If you want to hit us, I'm going to make you work for it. We check to see if he's going to get weaker next turn, and it kind of looks like he is, but he doesn't. He just keeps getting stronger. Look at that. 542 to 983. I think that's what that says. It's a lot of damage for an area of effect attack. We save the Sage. I still don't know how I'm going to live yet. I think I figure it out here. No, not yet. Still not yet. I'm trying to reduce his damage is what I'm doing here. So I'm like, okay, Power Steel is going to take away 100% of his damage. He's going to get weak. The damage is going to go to the Lich form, which won't carry over into my Necromancer life. I can take this hit. But I just keep thinking to myself, eventually, I will not be able to take the hit. It's going to get to the point where I can't take the hit. But as you can see, our stacking power from transforming into the Lich over and over, 1,200 plus percent without duplication Deadly Lust, just naturally. Yep, we say we take it. Bam. Huge damage numbers. The Lich gets smacked, and we switch over to the Necromancer. No big deal. And as you can see, his anger increases. He gets ever more frustrated at the fact that we're not dead. We think to ourselves, I would really love to switch his form. An Offering has been a wonderful card here, permanently increasing our damage every time we cast it. Double Druid's Curse is great for reducing their damage. I'm still on the I need to reduce his damage as much as possible track. So I know I could have squeezed out even more damage here if I would have come to the conclusion that this guy cannot hurt me, actually. Even if he tried, regardless of how much those numbers say, he actually can't hurt me. Yeah, it turns out I was never in danger. Turns out I could have stayed in this fight with him in the same form forever. $60,000, $61,000, $62,000, $63,000. Every single hit doing 1,000 some damage. Sacrifice an Abomination, get an Abomination. There's no way we play the Golem here. If we play the Golem, then we still haven't realized that we're invincible. And it took longer than I thought to realize. I mean, he's got 8 turns left. I'm playing pretty slow. So yeah, I think I might even still be afraid. Yeah, I'm still looking at my draw pile. So I might honestly still not realize how I'm going to get out of this. Which is awesome because it did happen in the middle of the fight. You know, I summoned the Golem. And I played Sage, doubled. I do plan to tank this. I plan to tank this hit. Yep. This is super shocking because this fully illustrates that and look, yeah, I use the flute to gain blocks too. I was like, this is the turn that I can't handle, and I fully panic, and I'm so wrong. I could have gotten out of this easy, and I could have played the Abomination and just kept going with my damage. Wow. So clearly huge misplay in 2 turns of this fight. The first misplay was me not turning into the Lich to attempt to grab the card that allowed me to switch his form. Since he can't kill me no matter what he does, it really doesn't matter if he switches form. Yeah, see, I'm panicking. I'm like, I don't have my blocks. Like, what am I supposed to do about this? No, it's fine. The second misplay was there, as I could have just kept going with the damage because, yeah. Come on, brain. Figure it out. Figure it out. I actually got a resurrected ghoul because my golem died. Like, legit got murdered. So that counted as a kill. I'm sitting here like, you give me this. I can't switch your form. This is a pretty bad draw in general. I'm still Druid's cursing him, trying to reduce his damage. Maybe he needed armor reduction there, and he wasn't at the max 500. Don't you play that again. Don't you do it, past self. I'll never forgive you. My abominations are all at 1-2. I'm losing so much damage here. Yeah, see, I really messed up not continuing on the damage track. I would have more healthy abominations with more time left on them here. This is not good. I wonder how high I could have pushed this if I would have played perfectly. $69,000. Yeah, next turn we might have to like duplicate the abomination card or something. Let's see how it goes down. I should use Death of the Other on one of the top abominations. Yep. And draw the abomination card, yeah. That's huge. Ah, wow. Big brain. Big brain. See, I was in the game. I was really focused. That makes it way better for us. And we promote them when we turn into the Lich, because they were alive. Whew, huge. Now we realize it. Funeral Fog. 2 blocks. It gives us 2 blocks. Funeral Fog gives us 2 blocks and 50 barrier. And we already have 40 barrier. But more importantly than anything, Funeral Fog gives us 2 blocks. What I'm meaning is that we can duplicate cards, and we even have a card that lets us duplicate. So we could stack it to where we cast duplicate leading up to our duplicate from the rune, and we can double duplicate Funeral Fog. We could gain 6 to 8 blocks at will, and blocks fully negate damage. So this guy would have to attack me with multi-attacks, and he would need to be attacking at least 8 times to get any damage through. And from what I've seen, his multi-attacks only go up to like 4 or 6, something like that. I don't think he ever gets anything like times 8. So because I can always turn into the Lich every single turn, as long as I don't have Funeral Fog left in my deck and I draw it and I get my duplicate, then I can't be killed. Yeah, cannot be killed. And I think we stop trying to reduce the damage that the enemy is dealing, because I think we do realize that now. Yeah, it seems like a good magic wind. Don't use Druid's Curse, because you don't need to reduce his Aww. Maybe he needed armor reduction. Or maybe I wanted to double magic wind, which might be the case. Yeah, I just wanted to duplicate the magic wind, that's why. So all of my units got to activate 2 times. $85,000 climbing. Yep, all we need is damage. If I would have gotten the talent that makes my Resurrected Abominations deal 150% of my Necromancer's damage, I know that I could have scored so much higher. The fact that we're missing the biggest damage talent for Abominations. And the reason that I do that play there instead of playing the Abomination is to guarantee that I have ultimate charges, because I need to play Funeral Fog every turn. And I just realized that. I'm like, I just play Funeral Fog. 2 blocks. Doesn't matter. We power steal for the damage amplification aspect, and we're constantly trying to play New Beginning at the end of each of these turns. Yeah, those do say 4,000. That is the top end sitting there. That's a lot of damage. We see the attack, but the number on the right-hand side doesn't matter. The 2 on the left-hand side matters more than anything. Because he's only attacking me 2 times, I block with Funeral Fog, and I am K. Every time. And as you can see, my choices for items were very bad here. I didn't need the potion. I didn't need the armor reduction of that yellow flask that you can see there, because I learned that armor reduction has a cap. And the third item, I thought I was clever. That is an item that does a free, very weak hit. And I figured at the final turn of this fight, when my Necromancer has turned into the Lich for the final time, he will have the biggest damage percentage boost that he will have ever had throughout the entire game. And those knives should really hurt. So they should add on a lot of free damage. But if they were just any damage amplification, I can imagine they would yield me a lot more overall power. But who knows? We'll see how much damage they actually add. I don't think I calculated it at the time. We broke 100K. And Funeral Fog. You lose. Your damage means nothing. Interesting order of operations there. I think I misplayed. Maybe. Maybe not. I seem to have been playing pretty well, so maybe not. And so now he's attacking me 4 times. So Funeral Fog only gives me 2 blocks. This would be concerning if we couldn't duplicate Funeral Fog, not only with a card that we get in our hand, but with a backup rune just in case, and even with both if we can play our cards right. So we are super safe here. As long as we can turn into the Lich, we are fine. activating our abominations on the left for the last couple times. Managed to get his damage up to above 800% bonus. It's crazy. Above 1,000. I'm just doing the math in my head. If that abomination gets plus 25 power every time it activates, and it starts at 100, that means that it gained 900 power. Every 4 activations is 100 power. So it activated 9 times 4. 36 times. That's a lot of activations. That abomination activated 36 times in its life on the battlefield. And we want living minions to sacrifice when we click the button to draw more cards, to have a greater chance to get the Funeral Fog. He's still hitting me 4 times. This is death right here that I'm staring down, unless I get the right cards. Debating if I want to kill my Fae and throw down something else to guarantee it. I think that's the decision I'm making here. Decide not to. Well, I drew Funeral Fog. 4 times 70. I have my cards set up. Like, yeah, I'm just hovering over it. I'm like, I win. I'm invincible. I'm immortal. Power Steal. Just to play a card, probably. Just to progress my track towards my duplicate. This is a situation where it doesn't matter what I do, but I want to do it right. Bam. Funeral Fog without playing duplication, because I duplicate it with my Rune. Now I have 4 blocks. Duplicate something that matters, like Power Steal. Yeah. And I can still New Beginning. Still New Beginning after that. That says 12,500. Get hit. Get slapped. Yeah. Block, 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 block. Oh, now you're only doing 2 times infinite? Whatever. It's only 2 times infinite. So yes, despite us not being able to switch his form, still was not an issue. If you were having any doubts at the beginning of the series, I hope that this has changed your mind. Building the Necromancer this way does not only afford you fast fights, you also have incredible sustain, longevity, just the fact that Funeral Fog is a card and that you can access it every turn keeps you super, super safe. It's not even something I had to consider before this fight, but the Lich is a masterwork of offense and defense. And you can do either every time you switch into them. If you build the Necromancer correctly, you can switch into them every turn. And that's really where the main source of power stems from. But as you can see, even without the Lich, the damage that we do is incredible. Racking up so many more activations for our next damage prodigy here. Nope, don't need to do that. Don't need to reduce your armor anymore. It would be much smarter to just sacrifice him to make sure I draw the right cards. I'm like, sad face. Now I have too much sacrifice in my deck, but it's perfectly fine. As long as I draw Funeral Fog, we're invincible. And if you go back in the video and you see that turn of panic that I have, where I summon the Golem, double cast my Sage, go all out, play my Flute, tank that big hit, I could have just turned into the Lich and duplicated Funeral Fog in that exact turn. Saved my Flute, didn't have to summon the Golem, could have just kept summoning damage. There was never a point where this guy could have killed me. Two times 258, not enough, my man, not enough. And I'm starting to play a little bit faster now that I know this. And I know I have the game won. I was going to say, I really hope I play that Abomination, because at this point I should just be going super hard for damage. He's only got 2 turns left. Ooh, I get a really strong magic wind here. I still might not do it just so that I can duplicate it. But I think I do cast it, yeah. Pretty smart to cast it there. Because I still might kill one of these Abominations to play a minion. So that a minion dies when I activate my Lich form. Just to be on the super safe side. Let's see if I risk it. Nope, I decided not to. I know I need a living minion when I hit that button. I know I don't need to reduce his armor or his damage, but for some reason I still kind of wanted to play that Druid's Curse. I check, I'm like, oh no, did I not draw Funeral Fog? I really thought that I didn't draw it. For a brief moment, I thought that I did not draw it, and I looked at my draw pile and I'm like, oh, we're good. Look at that. 148 times 2. Oh, and this is the last turn. Oh no, this wasn't the last turn. I just threw all those potions because there was nothing else. There was no reason not to. And I really wish that I would have had a different item there. This is the final turn, and this is the turn that I used the throwing knives. And we'll see how much damage they actually contributed to my final score here. Took us quite a while to get up to 100,000, but we soared through the 100,000 all the way to the 200,000 really fast. Even more damage. Probably going to use Death of the Other here. Yep. Got to guarantee that we draw as many cards when we hit this button as possible, because if Funeral Fog is in our deck, Good game. And that is the turn 1 kill Necromancer all the way through to the secret final boss. A couple turns of suboptimal play, but we had a very, very strong showing. If you guys didn't know this was possible, this is 100% possible. 1,740 damage that one did. So let's see. Yeah, they do about 1,300, 1,200 times 5. So 1,500. No, not worth it. We got about 5,000 damage max off that. 6,000 damage. No, that definitely not worth it. And our final score, ladies and gentlemen, the moment that we have been waiting for. Not this score. This score actually was kind of embarrassingly low for some reason. But we got to skip through our unlocks here to see where we landed on the scoreboard. Take our weird stone. Moment of truth. So much weird stone. 54. Super proud of myself. Think I could have gotten to the 30s. 54th best Necromancer run in the scoreboards at the time of this recording. I've probably been taken over by now, but hey. It's definitely something worth trying if you're interested in this. If you found this entertaining, definitely give it a like. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. As always, peace, peace.